We're live. All right, Lab Coat Agents. Today we've got a really good one. I don't think we've ever talked about the VA process or VA loan, so I'm kind of excited about this. And it's cool how it all happened. It was an idea that first came from Melinda, who's on here, and she said, "Hey, you know what? We should be talking about this." I'm like, "Yeah, we should. I love it. Let me put something together." I got the perfect people for this. Brought in Vanessa, Cherie, Alvin, and then we started talking to Christopher, sorry. And that was a really good conversation, by the way, Christopher. So that's why we brought you into this, because you're so passionate about this and about explaining it to our industry so that they can really understand what it is they're talking about. So before I get going, I'd like to introduce everybody, but have them introduce themselves so I don't screw it up. Alvin, we're going to go with you first, buddy. I've known you for a long time. Can you please tell the audience what areas you cover, what your connection is to the Veterans Affairs here?
All right. Yeah, so I am located in Southern California in the city of Rancho Cucamonga. So nobody knows where we're at, but if you've ever flown into Ontario Airport, we're right next door. So background, I'm a Marine veteran. I served in Desert Storm. I was in the military for 6 years. And like the rest of the panel here, I'm very passionate about serving our veteran community. And yeah, I've been an agent here in the area for quite some time now. So super excited about sharing about how to service and how to really connect with the veterans here today.
I love it, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, let's go to Cherie Benjamin. Cherie, I got to meet you at a Michael Hellickson event a while back, and ever since then I've been super impressed. So tell us a little bit about you and how you're connected to this.
So I'm Cherie Benjamin. I'm in Vegas, Atlanta, and in Chicago, have teams in all three places. As you said, I'm also with Club Wealth and a coach that's there. But I am also a vet myself, so with the Air Force, and was married to an Army spouse at the same time. So if we've ever had to do those two different branches, we know that can be a headache within itself just to manage that. But I'm extremely connected with that because I was in, then I got out for the family plan once we decided to start having children. However, my husband served in Afghanistan, and, I was there during 9/11 and everything that's happened after that, have seen, what war truly brings, as to some of us other ones that are here that are on the call know what that means to have that knock on that door. So I'm very passionate about servicing our VA communities. Some people look at it as a free loan for them, but they don't understand the sacrifice that our vets make every time that they raise their hand and take that oath. So thanks for having me on.
That's very true. Thanks for being on. All right, Melinda, tell us a little bit about you.
I'm in Dallas, the Dallas area. I am also a Marine veteran. I was in the Marine Corps for about 10 years, and my former spouse is also a Marine, retired Marine. My son is also a Marine veteran, so we have a connection to the military. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, got into real estate, started seeing some things that honestly really disturbed me about how there was so much misinformation, misunderstanding about this program. And I live in Texas. I mean, this is the best place in the country if you're a veteran. I mean, for anyone, but especially if you're a veteran.
That's true.
It really just hit me hard, and I just have been passionate for as long as I can remember about educating veterans on how to get the most from their VA home loan guarantee benefit. But not just that, it's educating real estate agents and the mortgage industry about how beneficial it is not only to the veterans, but to them and to communities and to all of us. It's not just about honoring or serving our veterans, it's about what we all do. It's about building our businesses, growing our families, having lives worth living, and really just bringing value to our communities in ways that they're right here. We just have to open up the doors and open up the education so that other people can access it and see it.
That's true. Good. Good points there. I love that. All right, Vanessa. I met Vanessa years back, just like I met Alvin. I may have met you the same month at one of the Keller Williams events. But Vanessa, tell us about you and how you're connected with Veterans Affairs here.
Yeah, hi, I'm Vanessa Noble. I am in Anchorage and Eagle River, Wasilla, so the Anchorage proper area. I am a service member still with the Alaska Air National Guard. I'm an intelligence analyst in the rescue squadron here. And I was a spouse for 6 years before joining the military, so I kind of went the opposite way. You know, I came into real estate just with a passion for helping and just my fellow service members kind of having their back. But what you don't realize is that when you help a military family, really putting them in the wrong property, depending on what their goals are long-term, can really be detrimental to their family. If you have a family who buys a home, gets stuck with a mortgage, wife, you know, leaves her job because they're leaving and they're not prepared for that. If you're not watching the market cycles, making sure how to really teach them how to invest with their VA funding fee, making sure that's not on top of their principal balance, it could really get them stuck. And when you have a deployed service member with a wife at home with kids that's now down to a single family income, and you put them in a position to shoulder 2 mortgages and they can't, you know, you really set them up for failure. And so getting into the pre-planning, helping them understand their goals and what they're trying to achieve through real estate has really been my passion. And also we have an amazing multifamily market here. I teach veterans how to build wealth through passive income with multifamily properties.
I love that. All right, and Christopher, you bring up the end man. Tell us a little bit about who you are. I recently met you, and I was really impressed with your passion, just like everybody else here. Great passion here. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you're connected.
First of all, thank God that everyone finds passion redeeming. I think it seems to be the most common saving grace that I have. Thank you all very much for the opportunity to come here and discuss what I see as such as an important topic, not only to get right, and for no personal points of pride whatsoever, but so that the men and women who've absolutely earned something are served properly. And I think that we can all agree that whether it's class-based, as a veteran is a definable class, or whether it's out of ignorance, there's a lot of difficulty that we need to correct on the lending side, the real estate side, on all of the things necessary to help the veteran achieve home ownership. I was a Marine, am a Marine. They medically retired me for nothing cool. I have no sexy stories, a couple of Muse, some deployments, and like 3 daughters. I listen to musical. The beard's like the only thing that makes me look cool. But that process, after about a 2-year flounder of getting out, I ran into something I call a 5-year VA house hustle. Melinda knows this story well. With one house I bought at $332, sold it 5 years later for $810, and I can source over $500,000 from one home into my bank account. And this was a place that had woodpecker holes in it. It was a place that had all the pill and paint. This was a place that had just undergone some structural stuff. It was the house that everybody was saying couldn't be purchased, and it was a short sale. And I did it. And it changed my family's life. I am a framer's son. I live in the neighborhood now that I grew up in. And for me, I think the lowest common denominator to achieving wealth in America for those who have never possessed it, I think it's the primary residence. And the VA loan offers the most efficient way to finance it on the face of the earth, as far as everything I'm aware of that constitutes debt or mortgaging on the earth. Debt does deals, right? Like, I believe debt to be the most powerful instrument out there. It's way more powerful than money, and great deals don't fall apart because of down payment. All of y'all know it. We all like to think that we have an important job, but everyone knows what put someone's butt on the couch. It's when the clear to close comes through 88% of the time last year. So I found it incredibly ironic sitting in San Antonio, receiving a message from NAR, the National Association of Realtors, great comments and everything else, but was asking a room full of loan officers what the reason why most veterans didn't exercise their loan benefit was, and with a very honest and curious mindset. And for me, the most common reason is past sentiment, poor sentiment, ignorant sentiment on a lot of the stuff that I hope we are able to discuss and just write off completely for everyone in the audience to see today, because I've encountered ignorance a lot in the South, and it's always overcome the same way, aggressively and honestly, and re-educating. I'm a fan of rehabilitation over execution every time, and I think that it's really important we get this right. So I hope that was quick enough and covering all the right topics.
Yeah, Man, you hit it right on. I agree. All right, well, let's get right into it. So lots of talk about VA loans and VA buyers. I mean, this is why we're all together here. Some agents out there, agents, mortgage brokers, and the consumer, even the consumer who can qualify to get a VA loan, doesn't quite truly understand what the process is or even what the loan is all about. Why do you think there's this huge confusion out there, and how can we solve it? Who wants to take that first?
I think that some of the confusion happens because you'll get an agent on that side. Let's say an agent that's representing the seller. So we'll get an agent on that side that's had this one experience where the VA appraiser came in and did, and something happened with that in reference to the house. Because normally it's not for any other reasons on the loan side, because a lot of these lenders, once they qualify someone for a VA loan, the only thing that causes a problem is really the appraisal. It's not a whole lot that comes from that client, but the agent on the other side will take one experience that they might have had, who knows how long ago in the past that was, and put a blanket statement. And then what happens is that we start hearing that, and people hear that over and over and over again, and they get on Facebook and they start talking about it, and lo and behold, that's what everyone believes.
Sure.
However, go ahead.
Well,
Do you think that, and this is for everybody else too, I agree with you, but do you think that then there should be some type of a designation for agents to go through, like classes that they have to attend, training, for them to be even able to represent any VA person or veteran in that case? Do you think that's the solution to it, or am I going too extreme here?
I don't think
there are some designations, but unfortunately, the education is still low. It's kind of a broader scale issue. And the truth of the matter is that the VA loan is one of the easiest qualifying programs you have. It has, there is actually no published debt to income ratio. You have no published minimum credit score. The lenders are the ones that impose those overlays. So a lot of times when you run into issues with qualification on the VA loan, it's going to be more on the lending institution than it actually is on the veteran. So there's so many flexible guidelines, and then you don't need a down payment. So as far as the qualification standpoint, it really is one of the easiest qualifying programs that are out there. What she was mentioning on the appraisal process, there's a couple more items on that checklist besides an FHA loan. It really is not that bad. If somebody had a jerk of an appraiser that was nitpicky on something silly about a property, but it still has a pretty low bearing standard. I mean, you have to have, no holes in the wall, running water, a ceiling that's not going to cave in, and a foundation that's sound. I mean, it's a government loan, so they want to make sure that property is going to be insurable.
So
because at the end of the
day, as agents,
no,
to understand the loan so that we can help veterans, or is it the responsibility
Oh, absolutely.
of the broker? Or both?
I would say that we're the frontline troops as agents. We're the ones boots on ground, seeing the property, talking to the clients, knowing their finances. It's absolutely our responsibility to understand what we're selling. And in real estate, the loan comes hand in hand with that. So if you don't understand the product properly, you can't educate people.
I'm going to go to Chris because he was nodding his head. No. Chris, you're a mortgage broker, right?
Yes.
And so what do you feel when I say, and I'm not saying that I agree, I'm just doing this for controversy, man. What do you say when I say, hey, you know what? It's not my responsibility as an agent to know this shit, right? I want you to tell me what's going on so I can tell my clients. What do you say to that?
Are you the listing agent or the buyer's agent?
I'm going to be the buyer's agent that's helping out the veteran.
Honestly, I'm probably not even going to cause a dust up with you. I'm going to have a private conversation with a veteran because they know and they trust me. I'll speak to them like a veteran, move their ass to someone who knows what they're doing. And then I'll circle the wagons back to you after we're off the button and the veteran's taken care of to offer a format for education, just like I did the man who will not be named here. I promise you I did. I can show you the whole dialogue. Offered him Leroy Romero, who is a great mortgage guy has a bunch of experience in real estate too, and he educates people. I offered that education, and then to take everything back and undo it all, and I would, but I wouldn't cause a dust up with the buyer's agent at that point. I don't think that it's beneficial for the veteran.
All right, so how do we solve for this? Because some agents out there, obviously, you can see it on social media. Some
I think that there's go ahead.
They're completely ignorant to the whole process.
That's what it is. It's ignorance. Mike, let me ask you this real quick. Where would you go to get educated on how to be the best real estate agent for veterans out there right now? Where would you go?
You're asking me personally? I wouldn't know except to Google it or to find a mortgage broker like you who understands the whole process, and I don't. So
there are a few platforms out there. They all teach from their perspective. And in my opinion, every single one of the the VA platforms that seek to educate at this point all have some funneling mechanism behind them, whether it's for leads, for education to fund their businesses, this, that, and the other. So this is what I'm doing, Vetted VA. I'm working with the largest trade association in the mortgage broker space as far as Pay to Trade Association, and a bunch of independent experts as well to recreate education not only for the independent mortgage broker, because it's a different process, there's more optionality, and you have the ability to get things done perfectly. Secondary will be the real estate professional. And the difference in this education course is it's not going to be owned, and there's not going to be any profit mechanism from the company that I own, which I only say own because I'm the one that's going to prevent it from being molested into something it shouldn't. It's going to be instituted by a company that's currently an educating company. They educate everybody, all the professionals in the industry, and they're going to have then a means to do so that we can retrain the professional. That's what they said. I started by saying I'm a fan of rehabilitation over execution every time when possible, and I mean that. I get that agents lack the ability right now to go out and become educated properly, but there are avenues if you search deep enough. I think that Military Mortgage Boot Camp, I'll say their name because I think that they've done a pretty good job educating across the board, and further, there were loan officers that get educated. I have other issues with this organization, but what I will say they've done an exceptional job at is the loan officers they train, guys like Leroy Romero and a few others, they go out and they offer continuing education to real estate agents at title brokerages, and they teach. The problem is experts are difficult to find, and education platforms aren't honest enough to really give everyone what they need. So that I'm working to recreate it.
Well, I think that's only part of the challenge in our industry, because you see our industry is so big. It covers veterans, and then it covers, I could say the exact same thing for luxury, right? Yeah. You can't have somebody who's never sold a luxury property go in and try to sell a $45 million home. It'd be a disaster.
No, and here's what I'll say to respect to that. You hear a lot of the argument brokers are better right now in this big tussle between retail and broker. Everyone should know their space. On a $45 million luxury property, I'm not going to stand up and claim to be the best suited for the client in that. You know why? Because I'm not an idiot. I know what the depositories are going to do to get that business from those clients, and I know what type of product offerings are out there. The problem is everyone should know their own space. When it comes to vets, independent brokers, without a doubt, I would put it there. You could give a number to it. Probably 95% of the time, without a doubt, are going to be best served because of optionality and competition. But you're right. The agent, honestly, the buyer's agent, it does a great job right now of usually making sure that the borrower is with the right professional, because at the end of the day, they all know that if they don't, they're not getting paid.
Well, and I'll tell you, the first part of my home buying class, I would say out of a 90-minute home buying class, the first 30 minutes is all about the loan. And I take it upon my responsibility to educate the client, especially the veteran, because you're dealing with families that do not have, maybe 10% of my clients have reserves and actual substantial savings accounts, but you're dealing with clients that typically are working paycheck to paycheck. And so when you're educating them about retail fees, about lender fees, about wholesale banks, private banks, mortgage brokers, and as a realtor, if you don't understand that, but you're negotiating their closing costs with the sellers, then at the end of the day, you're not actually saving them the most that you can possibly get them, or get certain things paid for. The VA loan certain lenders will even allow you to pay other bills on the closing of their property, right? So you can get their VA funding fee paid. And if you're paying a lot of incidental retail fees on the loan side that they don't have to pay with other types of lending institutions, you're really not educating fully to do the best job. And as a realtor, if I have to go negotiate with the listing agent to get, I mean, we have a very conservative market in Alaska. So if I want all of their closing costs paid for to give them a true zero down VA loan, then I need to make sure that they're with the proper lending institution that's going to save them the most amount of money. And if the reality is that if they're paying a bunch of retail fees and processing fees, then at the end of the day, the veteran's paying that. And so, I mean, that's the same thing whether I'm dealing with a veteran client or civilian client, regardless, but even more so for the veteran, because we are usually targeting a zero down entry, especially on an investment property when you can get a zero down ROI on a passive income opportunity. It's pretty powerful. So yeah, you have to educate on the lending side if you want to do an excellent job.
When we're talking about this lending side, what I'm seeing a lot of is that we get a lot of agents who, and I agree with you, Vanessa, that the agent who's representing the buyer needs to have this education. But we have a lot of people who are solely representing the seller. So is there anyone besides Christopher that is on the lending side on here? Okay, so Christopher, you're the man. All right, so my question to you,
No pressure, man.
Doing things like this, I want to make sure that those who are listening are coming away with some good, solid points that are there. So if I am representing the seller, why would I not say no to this VA buyer? Because I've heard a lot of reasons as to why, but give me a reason as to why I'm saying yes. Like, what is the process if I'm a listing agent? Because remember, you and Tristan talked about if you're representing the buyer, you're like, well, if you represent the buyer, you don't even know what you're talking about. But now we're in negotiations and I'm representing the seller.
You're the seller's agent, right? Well, the very first thing I'm going to do, and I think every lender should do anytime their VA client is writing an offer, is one, I always encourage my clients to have a prepared letter to the terrorists. And what I mean is I treat all sellers and all listing agents like terrorists. Humanize yourself in the eyes of the terrorists. If you want to live, you got to sell yourself. When I bought both of my houses, I told them a freaking daughter sob story of why my daughters would love this house and it would be beautiful and great for my family. And they all chose my family. They didn't choose me or my offer. So that's the first thing I do. I humanize myself in the eyes of the terrorist if I'm the borrower. The second thing I do as a professional is I call and I preempt the offer. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to say, hey, Vanessa, where are you at in Alaska, by the way?
Anchorage, Wasilla, Eagle River.
I love Kenai Peninsula. I've spent close to 6 of my life down there, all the way down to like Happy Valley. And everything you said today has been on point. So, but anyways, I call out and say, hey, Vanessa, I've got great news for you. I have a client that is pre-approved. I've already run through automated underwriting, so I have the stip list that my underwriter is going to be signing off of. Further, I've got all those documents in hand already because I'm proactive. That's what Marines do. So I have an exceptionally well pre-approved borrower. He's not underwritten just yet, but I have the stip list. I do these all the time. And I want you to know he's writing it with a VA offer. This client specifically has served and earned this benefit that allows him to achieve home ownership in a slightly different way. But at the same time, it doesn't affect y'all at all. In actuality, it's going to give you the opportunity to have the fastest and best circumstance of closing your home loan. The VA loan is the most flexible debt instrument that I'm aware of when it comes to a borrower qualifying. And this actually is a very well qualified borrower. I run into a lot of agents that say, well, they're a little concerned that the client doesn't have the down payment. Well, how do you know? He's not putting any money down because he doesn't have to. But let me tell you something, Dave Rams. Sorry, Mrs. Listing Agent. Don't assume an apples to apples comparison and then remove the ability that my client may have 20% to put down, just choosing not to because it makes more financial sense. When it comes to securing an asset, Vanessa will know this because she's in multifamily. I own multifamilies too, several hundred units. And what I'll tell you is something called debt service coverage ratio is why banks issue non-recourse financing, because they're more concerned with the property's ability to cover the payment. Right? And so if my borrower has 20% to put down and he doesn't, instead he puts that in a principally secured account where it's liquid and he has access to it, guess what? 4 years worth of mortgage payments is going to give him a lot more security and likelihood to get through the loan process anyways. Further, here's another reason why you want to accept my VA offer. There is not another mortgage in America that offers you a proactive opportunity to address value if the appraiser thinks the market is going to have value concerns. A lot of people think VA loans have market problems. Well, let me tell you a story, and it's a true one. VA appraisers are conventional appraisers too, and FHA appraisers, and some of them even USDA. And the thing that they're determining is market value. Market value does not fluctuate with loan type. If you have an issue with a VA appraisal value, you hold the appraiser accountable, and the VA loan offers something amazing called Tidewater. If they think that the property's not going to appraise, they're going to give us a proactive opportunity before they tell us this officially, so that we can offer better comparable properties to help influence their opinion if they've missed something, because they want to give the veteran the benefit of the doubt.
So you hit that right on, but I want to hear from Melinda, because she hasn't said anything. What do you think of what Cherie said and what Christopher said?
Well, I'd like to circle back from the beginning where you asked, I think you asked Cherie about the education, and do agents have a responsibility to know more, and should there be some requirement for that? You know, if you look at it, you step back and look at a VA transaction, every single one of them, there are certain requirements on every single aspect of it. In order to have VA financing, you have to be a veteran. That means you're specially qualified. You're a veteran. You meet certain criteria. In order to use a VA loan on any transaction, the lender has to be a VA-approved lender. That means that they've agreed to work within certain guidelines, and there are certain things that they have to do to educate themselves further, and that they have to agree to do to be part of this program. Every single home that is involved in a VA sale has to be appraised by a VA-approved appraiser, meaning that that person has gone through special training. They have special awareness. There are special requirements and qualifications on that person to appraise that house, who then qualifies the home. So even the home has to qualify, has to meet certain standards and criteria. The linchpin of a real estate transaction is the real estate agent, the realtor. So why is there zero requirement for any sort of actual real knowledge or education about the program, the qualifications, the process, anything, on the one person who can make or break this transaction, more so than any other? So to answer your question, absolutely every agent does have a responsibility for that, and there should be some form of education or requirement along with licensing. And the reason I think I say every agent is because this isn't luxury. If it's a $45 million home, luxury home, you know what? That's a demographic that someone specializes in as their niche. Or whether they specialize in working with for sale by owners or expired listings, those are niches. But it doesn't matter how old the person is, what color they are, what sex they are, how they identify, how much money they make, how many homes they own, what they do. Any person walking through your door could be a veteran. And it doesn't matter their demographic, their price range, because they might be the one buying the $45 million luxury mansion. Every single person you encounter could be a veteran. So every single agent should be at least aware enough of the program to say, yes, this is how it works. This is how I can best serve you. So to bring in what you said to Chris about, well, hey, I represent the buyer, but this is a VA. You know, this isn't my thing. You drive the bus because you're the loan officer. But you're trying to serve your client. You're not serving your client if you don't understand this. You don't have to want to work with veterans, but if you don't now, because there is no requirement, know enough about what you don't know to either seek advice, assistance, or to refer it to someone who does, because that's how we serve our clients. And to further dive into what we were saying earlier about why this is such a great program, you know, people worry so much about this lack of a down payment. Oh, they don't have skin in the game. First of all, if you listen to some commercials, they'll say that your service is your down payment, which I've always said that, and I agree with that. However, you think about this. Think about big banks. Doubt they really honestly have a soft, warm fuzzy for veterans. Everything's about numbers. This is business. The only reason, and I could be wrong, so I guess maybe I shouldn't say only, but in my opinion, the only reason that there's no down payment required isn't because banks love veterans. It's because it's a guaranteed government loan. It's guaranteed at 25%, whereas mortgage insurance only guarantees 20%. So, of course, there's less risk for them. they're going to make more money even if the veteran does default on the loan. It's just not about giving the veteran a handout or doing something to make them feel warm and fuzzy. This is business, and the numbers don't lie. This is a
but the thing that's interesting that people don't. The thing that's interesting that people don't realize is that the VA entitlement is actually an insurance. It's not a VA loan. The VA entitlement is the VA backing. That is that allows the veteran not to have privatized mortgage insurance. So the VA backing behind the loan program is what really gives that lender, the institution, the loose guidelines to say, I'm gonna work with whatever is published, because the VA is gonna stand behind the veteran and actually fund the foreclosure or whatever loss is taken to the lender. So the VA entitlement in its true form is actually more like an insurance policy than it really is a loan. But it's what gives the veteran the power to exercise their right. And there's no other vehicle on the face of this planet that has created more wealth for human beings than U.S. real estate. And for me, when you empower veterans to really do that, there's no other demographic in our country that deserves to build wealth in real estate than veterans. And so you really give veterans, when you serve them well, the opportunity to invest in their family, to build their wealth, especially if you educate them properly. But that, I think, is the biggest thing to realtors, is how to educate military families when they're buying. There's obviously the biggest concern that I have in my market when it comes to a VA loan is there's a few more fees. But if you're not already capped out at the 1% retail fee, because they charge a loan origination fees, most of my buyers, because I don't work with retail banks usually, is we cover all of our own fees, right? Because there is no fees on the mortgage broker side of the house. So usually when we're competing with conventional loans or with FHA loans from the listing representation side, I mean, let's face it, the listing agents, all they care is that loan's going to close, and it's going to close fast, right? With the least amount of issues. So again, that goes down to the professional rapport of the loan officer that asks the right questions, because, there's silly hiccups that can come in the qualifying process if they do not ask the right questions. Stupid stuff like, are you a 1099 employee? Or, that credit inquiry that was 30 days ago, did you actually buy a car? Things that can really jack up the ratios. But that's the loan officer professional rapport that you have to have, right? So that vetting process, and then is the agent asking the right questions? Did I hear my client talk about something that they did or didn't do, or earnest money they moved that they shouldn't have? But that unfortunately only comes with the skill of the agent that's listening, that's asking the right questions, that's working hand in hand with the loan officer, so that from the listing agent side, we earn the professional rapport as we're in our market. That when I write an offer on somebody's property, they know that I do my due diligence to educate my client properly, and whatever lender that I work with, it also knows what they're doing as well. Because let's face it, I'm not going to trust my buyer with a lender, I won't say lending institution, or a loan officer that really doesn't know how to vet their client properly, so that I can keep everyone, not just that one veteran that I'm working with, but every client that I touch, that I could keep their best interest by earning my professional rapport of knowing what I'm doing when I'm helping veterans. So it's really important that we all are educated with that.
I have a question on that to Alvin, to bring him in. Vanessa, Alvin, what do you see as the biggest challenge out there when you're submitting an offer for somebody that's getting a VA loan? What do you see? Because we're almost in the same market, right?
Yeah.
In like the LA area. So what do you see, bud?
So here's the thing, and this is why I teach at different boards of realtors on this subject on a regular basis. There's two basic things that I talk about: is how to market to the veteran community is one, and another one is how to get your VA offers accepted. Because the bottom line, lab coats, it's all about encouraging one another to do better. But how do we do it? Give us the tools and techniques to do better. Right? We're always coming up with systems and how to lead gen. But in this market, here's one thing that motivated me, Tristan, is that a long time ago, it continues to happen. It had it not too long ago. it happens, you talked about what's the problem. One of the problems, you talked about the education, but it's also the attitude. Attitude is 99% of everything. Everything we talk about on lab coats. Monday morning, is Monday morning a drag, or is Monday morning an opportunity to have an awesome day, right? It's all in our attitude. It boils down to our attitude with when we work with veterans. And here's my point. I've received phone calls as a listing agent where the agent on the other side says, hey, Alvin, we like your house on 123 Main Street. The only problem is my buyer's a veteran. That is exactly how it's worded. The only problem, my buyer is a veteran. Dude, I lose my mind. I'm like, seriously, you're talking to a veteran. Why would you look? It's our attitude, brother. It's how we look at it. Is it a problem or is it an opportunity?
So here's part of it, Alvin, and I think this is part of it. How do you stop that, though? How do you stop that poor sentiment, that ignorant sentiment that uses veteran as a cuss word? I tell people all the time, everyone doesn't think veteran's a cuss word, but ask a listing agent.
Yeah, so
I think you and I had this conversation before about, I actually did my CE this past year. I took some CE that was about working with veterans, just because I wanted to see what everyone else is teaching about, that demographic. And it was really interesting to me that just like almost every other person that within the industry that I talked to, the sentiment was, well, you've got to help veterans get into a home because otherwise they're not going to be able to. So this is like your good deed. This is like your community service, working with veterans, helping them in ways, and making sure that they know that these non-allowable fees, you can get the seller to pay that, or you as the real estate agent could say that, or could pay that. The interesting thing about this is that this CE that I took was created and sponsored by the #1 VA lender in the U.S., who conveniently forgot to mention the fact that lenders can also give credit for those non-allowable fees. That they're perpetuating, the people who are supposedly so for our veterans are perpetuating the myth that our veterans need a handout, that our veterans are charity.
For the sake of profitability.
And the problem is we have a veteran as a client. It's not a problem. These are some of the most qualified buyers that out there, period. A VA loan is the strongest type of loan product available, bar none. And the fact of the matter is, if you're eligible for, and Chris, you can back me up on this and, correct me where I'm wrong, but, we've talked about the fact that if you're eligible for a conventional loan at $200,000, but you're a veteran, the amount that you're going to qualify for based on the exact same criteria is automatically going to increase because of the dramatic impact of not having to pay mortgage insurance. But not only that, now there's less time to wait to save up money for a down payment. There's
and
less
the interest rate's usually lower.
The interest rate is lower. There's less time to have to repair or fix or build credit. So you can get your clients into a home, 6 to 12, who knows how many months faster than you would be able to on a conventional, with less money out of pocket up front, less money out of pocket every single month that they own the home. And if they have a disability rating of 10% or more, and the funding fee is waived, you're going to save them thousands more right off the bat. So for you as an agent, because that's who we're talking to here, this is who we need to educate. Why do you want it? For you as an agent, you can sell more homes, bigger homes, faster, and have so much value to that they're going to refer everyone that they know to you. So you're going to get bigger commission checks faster. Why wouldn't we as agents jump all over that, especially when all we're doing is our job? And
that's the thing. It is the attitude we talked about, right? As far as when we present an offer to our sellers, we're presenting 6 of them, right, Tristan? You say, here's 5 or 6 offers, 20% down, 5% down, 30% down. Yeah. Here's a veteran, 0 down, and the mindset is, oh, that one's got to go to the bottom. He had, like you said, he has 0 skin in the game. There's a national statistic. VA loans actually outperform any other loan on the planet, and that's a fact. Christopher can attest to that.
I think they're like a 1% lower than a conventional type performance on that from what I'd heard recently, but I could be wrong there. Either way, it's splitting hairs, and they perform better than almost anything.
But it's
They also lease more homes on than the loan side.
yeah, how we present offers to our sellers. It's all in the way we feel about it. It's like, here's 3 offers.
Yes.
And this third one, yeah, it's 0 down, but he is a veteran. Can I share with you? This is an awesome opportunity. The bottom line, the seller, because you don't want to do a disservice to your seller. You want to provide the best and the top 5-star service to your seller. Your seller is saying, Tristan, just give me the highest net. That is what I'm interested in. You're telling me this vet, he came in at the same price as the other 2, but he's got 0 down. It makes sense because you're telling me it makes sense, right? Because we are the ones that are leading them. We're the professional that's giving advice to our sellers. We're the professional giving advice to our buyers. Yes?
I'm not a realtor, so I don't know this one. All of y'all are, so maybe y'all can give me an example of this. But why is it incredibly pertinent for me as the seller to know how much the borrower or the buyer is willing to put down? When 88% of people used a mortgage to buy homes last year, that tells me they're all putting down very little. The majority of what they're doing is debt. So whether the program's 0% USDA, 0% VA, 3.5% FHA, 3% conventional, or 20% conventional, if they're approved, underwriting's mostly through automated underwriting systems now. We have STIP lists. We've reviewed it. What difference?
Yeah,
At
but
this
you-
point,
you-
what
It's
difference
just
does
a
it make?
perception that you have money. It literally is just a perception that you have money. So if you have money, you're more qualified. It's
So
a
the
very
perception
ignorant-
literally then is the veteran has no money because he's not putting any down.
well,
Which is not true.
or he's a smarter investor, right?
Yeah, which is completely not true. And here's the thing that Alvin, I'm so glad that you start touching on this, because one of the things that people fail to realize is that, and which we said it, is that the VA loan, if I'm looking at loans across the board, the VA loan does have the most amount of flexibility that's in there because of the little guidelines that are there. So agents need to, I really believe that agents need to, and I've been on the loan side for years prior to getting into the real estate side. I don't see agents sitting down with loan officers to understand the
Yes.
loan process, just the loan process. You know, so what's a conventional loan outside of what you learn in your, you know, in pre-licensing and things of that nature? They're not going and sitting down with the loan officer to find this out, whether or not you're representing a buyer or if you're representing a seller. Because to me, when I see a VA offer that comes through, I'm like, I think about my statistics of when I'm representing someone on either side who has a VA loan. I have had VA loans that have gone through all kinds of hoops that ends up closing, that I know, had this been a conventional, had this been an FHA, it was dead in the water from the start. However, since it's a VA loan, that same lender can get other types of exceptions. They can do so much more with that borrower that they could not do with that borrower if they had an FHA deal.
Can I throw something out real quick? I find it incredibly not surprising that none of us have ever had this conversation around a DACA client or a HUD Section 184 Native American client. Even though their FHA or conventional loans are different, the appraisal processes are different, the underwriting's different. Guess what? I don't tell you it's DACA. I don't tell you it's a HUD Section 184, because identifying those features could allow for the opportunity for discrimination to occur, and I think it's a dang good thing. Could you imagine for a moment someone with my accent saying, I don't know about accepting that DACA offer. I've had appraisal problems on those types of clients. Could you imagine that? I mean, honestly, that would irk my soul. But when we do it with veterans, no one sees it. Here's the problem. VA loans, when you see it's a VA loan, it perfectly identifies a class of consumer. Perfectly. Right? You've all said it. Now, here's the irony of what I just said. A lot of people think civilians can't get a VA loan or be on a VA loan. That's not true either. You can co-sign on a veteran's loan as a civilian. You have to have money down in that situation to cover half of the VA loan guarantee at the 25%. But you can still, as a civilian, be a co-signer on a VA loan. Further, as a civilian, for the properties that the VA actually owns, REOs, you can buy them from the VA, and they will seller finance them to you with a VA loan. You can get a VA loan buying a VA REO from the VA, no PMI, and you can also do it with 5% down on an investment property. You can buy an investment property from the VA that they own, get 5% down, no PMI, and a VA loan as a civilian. But no one knows these little features.
Christopher, let me use a real world type of thing. And I'm going to just use myself. Okay. So we're looking for a property in Vegas. I have full veterans benefits. You know, I can go and buy something. Well, for my price range, I got to put down 25% of the amount over and above, you know.
Not after January 2nd, 2020.
Well, it's not January yet.
I know. I'm just saying that's a good nugget to throw out.
But so that's a thing. So if I'm buying over and above the VA loan limit that's there, I only have to put down 25% currently of the amount that's over and above that. Okay, that's a great deal. Or if I go conventional, I got to put a whole heck of a lot more money down. I went out and put offers in on one property, and I had the agent call me back and say, but you're using a VA loan. Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's what she should have said. But this is
You know what I do? I honestly get my lender on the phone with them in 10 minutes, and you know, if you get your, you know, and they can educate them to the point that kind of overcomes their ignorance.
I don't need my lender. I educated them myself. So I can tell you that now. Because this is my deal on my own self. So I said, okay, we went through it a little bit. And then I said, you know what? Forget that house. We went to one in the same subdivision and went under contract on that property. Now, what it boils down to is that, can I put down 20, 30, 40, 50%? Yes, I can. I can. Let's rewind back to what Christopher said. Just because I'm using my VA does not mean I don't have the means to put down more monies, but it is a benefit that I earned. And I know that it is a loan that, despite whatever it is, there's a lot of flexibility when it comes down to that loan. I'm an agent. There's not really a debt ratio requirement that's really by the book when we start looking at tax returns. Go ahead, Christopher.
Let's talk about this for all of the borrowers across the board, for every eyeball watching, listing agent or otherwise. Do you know what benefits me as a borrower when I put more money down? Nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing.
My property appreciates the exact same way, and the bank carries much less risk, usually rewarding me ever so slightly, just enough to make me feel like I've accomplished something for me. It's not true.
But nobody explains that to you at the beginning as an agent. So check this out. I'm not a veteran, but when I started in real estate in 2003, 2004, I was sitting down, and my broker came in and said, so let me show you here the different types of offers you're going to get on a listing. You're going to get all cash. You're going to get conventional. You're going to get FHA, all different types of FHA, and then you're going to get VA. Now, you're going to consider them in that order. This is the education.
Let me ask this, Tristan, because I posted in LCA, and some of y'all will see this, about 2 months ago now, I posted, and I said, ISO real estate brokerage that will prioritize conventional and FHA offers on listings over VA. And I was simply trying to find a real estate brokerage that has a policy on this, because here's why it's important. That is literally the smoking gun for a disparate impact for a national protected class argument. The post was removed, but I got the names of a couple people that commented, and it looked very much like that their brokerages have those policies. But that's incredibly important to find, not to hammer these people. Dude. 6 states have already passed protected class for veterans because their independent data led them to believe veteran home ownership was being affected negatively because of discrimination against veterans.
It is, man.
It should be a protected class nationally, and I need y'all's help
100%.
To push it.
100% it is, because if I was being told this in the mid 2000s, this is an ongoing problem from a long time ago, and it's not even close to changing.
It's bigotry of some type. It really is. If we were talking about a doc alone with my accent, all of y'all would go, "Whoa, that Christopher racist."
Hell yeah, dude. 100%.
Hey, you were talking about why should a listing agent care? Well, we briefly touched on earlier about, or why should sellers care? We touched on earlier about the fact that, someone who qualifies for X amount with a conventional, if they're eligible for a VA, they may be qualified for more. As a listing agent or a seller, why do you care? Because you open up the market to a huge number of other potential buyers. all you're doing is benefiting yourself as a seller, and all you're doing is your fiduciary responsibility as a real estate agent whenever you bring as many buyers as possible to your seller so that they can get the highest price for their property in the least amount of time, least amount of hassle. To me, it just makes good business sense all the way around, because there is no loser. There is no, if someone could show me an actual real downside to VA, because veterans benefit because they're able to get into a home faster with less money out of pocket. The agents benefit because they're able to sell more homes, get a higher commission check faster. So no one's arguing with that. Lenders, Chris, you're able to do more of these loans. You make more money. You're able to bring more value to the community. And the crazy thing is because of the margins and the regulations on the margins, even the big banks, even the lenders are making more when they're doing government loans. There is no downside.
Well, Linda, we all of us here in this group, we all understand the benefits and the power of the VA loan, but how do we solve for this? What's the solution for the challenge?
I've got an idea.
Tristan, we got to be proactive.
Yep.
In what way, though?
Mhm.
How do we how do we become proactive?
Social media. Guys, veterans are not at the VFW. We're not at the American Legion. We're on PTSD meds. We're on alcohol. Or if you're lucky enough to be in Colorado, you're smoking some good stuff. But either way, we're at home. We're somewhere avoiding people, and we're on social media.
But it's not just about educating the veterans.
No, it's about educating
our industry. And in order
I understand that. But social media, I think, is our opportunity to push this message, and by holding every single person accountable that steps across that line publicly, I think that's how we influence it. Because guess what? No one likes getting hammered. Facebook's brutal. We all know that. I've been hammered.
Okay.
Right?
I think that what Alvin was starting to say is 1000% true, is that we have to be a lot more proactive at this. If you're going to take this profession as something that is serious for you, you're not doing this, I guess, part-time or whenever your mom decides that she wants to buy or sell a house. So if this is your career and you're taking this very serious, then you have to reach out to those who are more in the know. So I'm going to challenge every single person who ends up hearing this to sit down with a reputable loan officer to go over the different programs that are offered to veterans. I'm also going to challenge those of us who are in thought leaders positions, who are all over social media, who are the brokers, who all of that. I'm going to challenge you all to now have someone come into your team meeting and teach this as a whole to your entire team, your entire brokerage, so that we can start the change. I mean, we have to start this change of this mindset, this negative mindset that's there. And the best way for us to change that is through knowledge, for everyone to be armed with this knowledge.
I agree
Tristan,
100%. Here's what I'll say to anybody that...
Say that again, Alvin?
All right.
Alvin, go ahead.
So real quick, I got involved with a nonprofit organization years back, and their sole purpose is the Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals. And the only reason I bring it up is because they've gone national. They started here in Corona, just two guys, a veteran and a patriot got together and said the veterans are being underserviced, right? Their whole purpose is to educate the real estate professional, educate the professional to help the veteran, right? But one of the things I will say that's tangible is right now, we've been working, we go to the Hill every year, we go to DC, pushing and talking to our politicians, is that the application all the way up to this point has never asked, it asked your race, your marital status, all these other things. But the application has never asked, have you ever served in the military? We have been working on this for the last 3-4 years, and it is now getting some legs to it. We're now big banks that you guys will know are now, even though it's not implemented by Congress, they're starting to implement it in their loan process. So if we can walk away with one thing as agents to do a little bit more business and better service, ask the one question when you're taking that listing and when you're showing houses, have you ever served in the military? Just a simple question, have you ever served? Just start with that conversation, right? If you can walk away with one tidbit, walk away with that. And we got some stats. Like I said, I've taught some classes. I continued educating our agents here in the area. San Bernardino County is the largest county in America. 17,697 sales in the San Bernardino County, of which 826 were VA loans. It's hard to imagine that out of those almost 18,000 people, only 800 were vets. It's because we're not asking the right questions.
Absolutely.
Lead generation, lead follow-up.
Yeah.
Tristan, what do we talk about? Ask the right questions, right? Ask the right. So one takeaway, just ask your clients, have you ever served in the military? Start with that.
And I'll tell,
Question, man.
honestly, for y'all's group, Vetted VA is honestly the only goal it has is to provide the best information out there. It is a grouping of individuals that get nothing from it. There's no solicitation in it. I have guys in there to make certain of it. If you offer like of any type, you get double tapped and kicked out of that group real quick. But for any agents that have questions, for any agents that have a problem, for any agents that have an issue, anything at all that gives you a bad taste about VA, I will offer my community's time free of charge, no solicitation, no nonsense, just to serve you with vetted information that you can trust. There are other groups out there. VA Rep does a great job. I think their mission's probably better than anyone else's that I've seen for that matter as far as educating. But that is something that I think a lot of groups need to be doing. I'm doing it from this direction because being an independent mortgage broker, I have complete optionality. VA one-time closes, VA renovation, escrow holdback for repair. Like I do everything, right? And so the education has to be different from my perception to impact the audience that I really need to, the audience that I think and Vanessa thinks offers the best deals to VA borrowers out there. And that's the independent, non-captive wholesale broker. Sorry, I had to get that in.
All right, Christopher, how do we visit whatever it is you're doing? Vetted VA, is that a website or what?
It's actually not. It's a community on Facebook. For all of the people that are wanting to join the group, I would tell you I keep a lot of professionals out of there if I have a feeling that they're going to solicit or back channel solicit. All of the members know if you get a direct message from someone trying to sell you something, tell me. But I go to the Facebook group at Vetted VA. There's a page, like the page, go to the group, answer the questions. If you're a professional out there and you want to become a part of this group just so you can have access to the professionals in there, fucking powerhouses. Laura Brandeo with AFR, right? The lady who was a part of writing the rule book on VA Reno, so that program actually existed in a functional way for veterans, right? Anthony Casa leading a broker like the AIM movement. Clayton Collins, the CEO of Housing Wire, Josh Pitts, a lot of people that are just simply there and a whole host of professionals to provide proper information. That's all. That's all we want to do.
And on the real estate side of things, as far as, I know that there are a lot of really good education resources coming from the loan officer side. And Chris and I have known each other for several years now, or at least it seems like several years. And he knows his stuff. Absolutely. He mentioned earlier he's not on the real estate side of things. There are some other things to consider. Marketing to the military community and how does it affect the actual transaction? Because believe it or not, it's not just about the loan. It's about the entire process. And something that you can do, even if you don't have VA buyers right now, I'm going to give you a little freebie. If you have RPR on your phone, the app, I know a lot of people don't like it, don't use it, whatever. Walk through your neighborhood. I just challenge everyone who's on here who has access to the RPR app. Walk through your neighborhood. It has that geolocation, whatever thing on there. So when you're walking, you can point your phone at the house and it'll bring up information on the house. It'll also bring up mortgage information. So you walk in the neighborhood and now all of a sudden you're standing by somebody's house and it shows that they have a VA loan on that home. You know that person's a veteran. You know that there's someone in your market, in your neighborhood right there that now you're building your list of your very, very hyper local community. And now you have a list that you can market to for listings. And people who sell houses, they move places. So you're also going to build your buyer base as well. Now the trick is you've got to actually bring real value to them. And please don't do what I've seen, almost everyone do, which is I'm going to bring value to them by I'm going to send them out a postcard, I'm going to slap a flag on it. Boom, I'm a patriot. That's not the value that there needs to bring to them. There's so much more.
Are you sure that doesn't work? Are you sure?
All been fishing with that person who at every single dabble of the tip of the rod, they pick it up and they set the hook enough to pull it like all the way out of the water. Don't be that agent. So many people are on social media to try to set a hook when the reality is the consumer on social media wants one thing. They want you to answer their questions. They want to know that You're concerned with making sure they get where they're going and not that your bank account gets where you want it to go. They expect social media to be a market where they can engage the professional and be engaged thoughtfully and receive value in the transaction without having to pay for it or sign up for some email funnel. Give them that.
And
You'll
have
be-
if you have questions, any of us on here are more than willing to talk to you, to help how we can. There are, I live in Texas. I think I mentioned it's the second largest veteran population in the U.S. Interesting fact, 51% of that population lives in 10 counties. 10 of those, or 5 of those counties are in North Texas and not near military installations. So just because you don't live near a base doesn't mean this opportunity isn't for you. You shouldn't at least look into it. I'm happy to answer questions and provide value to you as agents and loan officers however I can. I'm sure that's the only reason any of us are here today. So we really want to see more people see the value in this so that we can bring more value to the military community, the real estate community, and just our communities at large.
To any agent out there with disbelief still in their mind, I would say one thing. When you watch this video, if you don't want to get hammered, that's cool. If you have any doubt that the VA loan is anything other than the gold standard for mortgages, tell me what it would take to convince you otherwise. And I promise you, I will do everything in my power to show you real facts that should change your reasoning if you're open to it.
Well, I think more awareness will definitely help. So what we'll do is this will be like part 1 of a few parts. I love everybody on here. We had some great content. I don't think we all had enough time to talk, so I think we should definitely do this at least 2 more times in the next few months. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
let's plan for that.
Really start diving into that marketing to that.
Yes.
That's a huge thing that we definitely don't have time to go into right now.
The marketing and the type of education that's needed, I think, so people understand how do you approach it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
what do you do after you close them? After all of this stuff and you close them, y'all want to maintain relationships with your database. Well, guess what? If they get one of those mailers that's offering them a 3-point origination and 2 points of discounts to get into a nice and new 3-1 arm, guess what that's going to do? Jeopardize your relationship. So we have to protect them after we close too from bad offers, whether it's from that, whether they're being asked to pay for a copy of their deed or some other goofy thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. That. Oh my gosh. All right, everybody, that's all the time we have. But if you missed part of it, we're going to replay it on YouTube. We're going to download this, edit a little bit of it, and then put it up in about 4 or 5 days. And then this will stay up on our Facebook group if you do want to see it there. And then what we'll do is we'll announce the second part of this probably, what are we in, middle of July right now? We'll probably do it like mid-August, around there.
Perfect.
Right around that time. All right. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate y'all being on. Great information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.